Hi everyone, Aidan here at the etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the etrailer tilting and folding cargo carrier on the back of our 2022 Chevrolet Tahoe. Now this is going to be a really versatile hitch-mounted carrier. For one, a hitch-mounted carrier is very good for carrying some extra stuff, whether we've got that third row of seats up in the back of our Tahoe and space is limited. Maybe we've got some stuff we're taking on a road trip and we need to get everybody's stuff somewhere. Outside on a cargo carrier is a great place to get it. Or maybe we've got some messy items, maybe some things from the hardware store, bags of concrete, malt, sand, things that are heavy and tend to rip often. If that mess gets out here, it's a whole heck of a lot easier to clean, just hose it off with some water, than it is to vacuum out the interior of your vehicle. Now with this one, you're going to get a lot of usable space. From front to back, it's going to be 24 inches from the inside edge to the inside edge. That's your usable space. And then from side to side, you're going to have 60 inches of space. So this is plenty of room for things like suitcases, coolers, duffel bags, any other thing you might think of putting in here. You can probably put it so long as it's within that 500-pound weight capacity. That's pretty standard across the board for most cargo carriers, and this one is definitely up to the task of competing with those. All the bars around, it's going to be a steel construction, so they're very strong, good for tie-down points, and if you do put a strap on here and put a lot of pressure on it, it's not going to bend or warp these bars. The mesh bottom is going to make it really easy to clean up. If we put something wet on here, none of that liquid's going to pool up, it'll just drain right through. And then you can see it's a pretty large carrier, both in the size of usable space, but how it's sticking out from the vehicle. That can be a bit of a pain, maybe driving around or pulling into a parking space, so that is something to keep in mind. From the bumper to the outer edge of the carrier, it's going to be 41.5 inches. It's a lot of distance that we're adding to the back, so do be cautious when you're pulling into spots or driving around. You do get a little bit of rise in the shank, though, on an already tall hitch, so the ground clearance at the back end here is going to be right at 25 3/4 of an inch. I don't think that's something we'll have to worry about too much when we're driving around. Like I said, your hitch is already tall off the ground, and then you get a little bit of extra clearance with the cargo carrier, so that's great to see. Whenever you're using this, you want to think about how tall you're going to stack your gear. Now, eventually you're going to block things like your license plate, your backup camera, but with a lot of other cargo carriers, you got to think about hatch clearance, because even with that third row up, there is still usable space back there. One thing this carrier has is a tilting feature. So if we come and turn our attention towards the middle of the carrier right here, we've got two pins and clips. I'm going to remove both of those right now. And what that's going to let me do, if I kind of shift around to the outside here, is actually tilt the carrier down and away. So long as everything on the carrier is strapped down properly, it'll stay in place and allow us to open up the back hatch of the vehicle, maybe, if we just hit that button one more time. And you can see as it passes over, it doesn't ever come in this plane of the cargo carrier, so we can theoretically stack things up as tall as we want, and we're never going to lose that function of the back hatch. So if we need to have this all fully loaded and the carrier, we can do that. The same really can't be said for a lot of the fixed carrier options that would fit on the Tahoe here, because so many of them sit close and again, don't have that tilting feature. Something to keep in mind with this is you also have the folding feature. So I'm just going to go straight into that right now, folding it upright and then securing it with a pin at the bottom. This isn't the most graceful thing to get lined up. You do have to wiggle it back and forth a bit, but eventually you can get it to pop through, secure it with a clip on the other side, and then you're clear. You can store the extra pin in here, or just keep it in the car. Now, why you might want something like this, let's say you're taking the cargo carrier on vacation. You get to your destination, you unload your bags, and then where are you going to put this? You're probably just going to leave it in the hitch, and if you want to save some space driving around, this is a great way to do it. From the bumper, that same point we measured from before, it now only sticks out 15.5 inches. That's going to be way easier to pull into a parking space and just drive around in general because it's not as much of an obstruction. It will still be blocking things like your backup camera, but through the mesh you can pretty easily see your license plate too. And then on the sides here, although it does come a little bit in line with the taillights, we're still maintaining pretty much all of our visibility. If you decide you want to get an add-on light kit for this carrier though, you can do that. It is sold separately, but it integrates with the carrier pretty well, and it'll just plug into the 4-pole wiring to give you things like turn signals and brake lights. Moving on down to the hitch, we can see it's working with our 2" by 2" receiver tube. It comes with an anti-rattle device that works pretty okay. It's a little bit tough to get set up, but it will help stabilize things in the hitch. And then it includes our hitch alignment collar. Once that's tightened down on the shank for the first installation, it'll help you align the hitch pin hole whenever you put it back into the hitch. So it's a pretty nice thing that it includes. And overall, if you're looking for a carrier that has a lot more features and options like that tilt away and folding, this is definitely a solid option. It's very competitive on the weight capacity and the size, and if you're going to be using it for long terms and maybe leaving it in the hitch more often than not, this is going to be a solid option to go with. Thanks for watching.